Looking forward to sharing with you a couple of things today. We're kind of revising a lot of things we do with BPL, and glad to have you with us. And those of you watching online as well, I want to thank you and appreciate all the feedback we get from you. And continue. I know today you'll probably text in your questions, and they get that. And if you're here live and you want to text in or just ask a question, they have a microphone set up for you over here at the end. That's the part I enjoy the most of all. And let me just jump right in and talk to us today about. We talk about leadership, so I want to tell you about what great leaders do. And this is what the deal is, what great leaders do. Now, we can see the difference between no leadership. We see it between poor leadership, good leadership, and high-level leadership. And those are different types of leaderships. No leadership means no direction. You go into a place where there's just no leadership, and you'll notice nobody knows what to do. They don't have a clue. They find themselves that in a place where small problems grow into big problems for no reason other than no one's there to fix it. And so we've all seen a part where there's just no leadership. And then there's poor leadership. We know what that is. Poor leadership always surfaces in morale. It's one of those issues where the first thing you can do when you walk into a room is you can kind of sense whether or not it's being led well by the morale of the people around. They have a problem with clarifying what the vision is. Oftentimes with poor leadership, if you ask what the vision is, they just don't know. I think Gene and he flew me up to North Carolina a while back, and I was in a room with a lot of highly intelligent people from the university. And so in the Q&A deal, I said, okay, what is your mission? What's the number one mission you have? And these were all very intelligent people, and one guy said it's this, one guy said it's that, another one said this. And after about 15 minutes, I figured out we had about 15 leaders with about 18 different agendas, and no one knew what it was. And then one of them just got up and honestly admitted. He said, it appears to us we don't even know what the main mission is. Poor leadership does that. It'll surface real quickly with that. Poor leadership is generally given by a person who is not ready to lead, and they are threatened by good leaders. If good leaders come around them, or somebody starts to, as they would call it, outshine them, they're insecure, and it begins to arise. Somebody asked me one time, how do you lead a church from 32 people with zero salary? How do you do that to $4.6 million? We just paid it off, and now we'll go to the Civic Center and all the other stuff. How do you do that? I tell you, it's real simple. You get everybody around you to be smarter than you. And if they're smarter than you, you always want to be almost the dumbest one in the room, okay? And they'll take you further. But if, on the other hand, you got to do it all, we only have so much. So find good people and let them express their gifts. But poor leadership, it shows up in a lot of ways, and that's one of the ways. And then there's good leadership. Good leadership is when things stay on track. Good leadership is when people are inspired. It's when benefits and rewards are enjoyed. People like going to work. They enjoy the environment. They enjoy the folks they work with. And that's the results are always happening, and that's really the indicator that it's well led. You can see things that you say it was here and here it's there, and they took them from there to here. That's good leadership. And that's good, and if you're in that environment, that's what you want. But I want to talk to you about great leadership. Great leadership is quite a bit different. It stands out. It makes you look so different even from the people around, from the other companies, other organizations, other teams. It almost makes you a loner. Great leadership will put you in a place where there's nothing really to compare right around because you've just been so focused on where you're going. Here's the good part about it, though. You're always making progress, and leaders are emerging from it. You're reproducing people that are growing. And as a result of that, that's why they're happy, by the way. You're never happy when you just accomplish a goal. You ever had a goal that you set out to get and you just wanted to get that goal? When you got the goal, you say, okay, that's it. Now what? You're not happy just getting a goal. If you want to be fulfilled, growth is where you're fulfilled. As long as you're growing, that's when you're happy. And you can be growing in a dozen different areas. Finances, in family, in relationships, in your career. Wherever you're growing is where you're fulfilled. And so we sometimes make the idea that I can't be happy until I reach that. No. You can be happy just knowing that today we moved the ball, that we got a little more ahead than where we had been before. Great leadership does this. Momentum comes with great leadership. And that's the key, too, by the way. If you're going to grow a great organization, The secret is your best friend is what we call Big Mo. It's the momentum. If you get momentum going, you can get a lot of things moving. You can change things when you have momentum. You ever tried to push an obstacle? Let's say you want to push a truck or a car. Did you know it's very difficult on the front end to turn the wheel and to do much? You can't guide if from a dead stop. But once you get it moving, you can turn the wheel, you can go where you want. Momentum allows you to do a lot of things you can't get otherwise. That's why you want to always keep a finger on momentum. Where's our momentum? Is it up? Is it down? Is it growing? Is it declining? And so momentum is found in great leadership. On top of that, you'll find this hope is always high. In fact, great leadership's got a lot of stuff. Obstacles are really challenges. I like it when I'm with somebody that when there's a so-called problem, they look at that and say, we can fix this. I can do this. And it's nothing to those kind of people. When a great leader looks at a problem as if that's par for the course. And by the way, if you've got more than 2 people on your team, you're going to have problems at times. And if you've got, a dozen people, you're going to have a couple. And if you have 1,000 people, you're going to have more. That goes with it. It's okay to have that. That's part of it. But great leaders know how to turn problems into opportunities. They also do this. And I found this interesting. Just my thoughts along that line. Vision is very clear with great leaders. You never have to wonder with a great leader where the vision is. They know where they're going. And they understand discipline and accountability. They understand honesty, hard assessments. They don't mind looking at things and saying, let's rip that up, throw it away, let's change this or fix it. And they solve a lot of stuff, and that's just normal for them. And people, by the way, when you're in a growing organization, the people that want to grow are going to stay with you. They're going to keep growing. They'll love it. They like it. Good leaders want to be in a growing organization. And can I tell you that poor leaders will get out. They'll bail off. It's always good to have an organization where people are coming in and some are leaving. I have people ask the question sometimes, do people ever leave your church? Sure, absolutely. And that's part of it. And the question is not, for me, do they leave? Sure they leave. Are you going to lose customers and clients? Yes, you're going to lose customers and clients. That's going to happen. That's okay. The real question is not, do you lose them? The question is, who are you losing? Are you losing your best ones? If you're losing your best ones, then there may be something wrong. If you're losing the ones that you couldn't please anyway, some of you've got a job, you know this. The minute you meet that client, at that moment, this is not going to end well. I'm going to do all I can. I'm going to try my best, but it's just not going to end well. I just know that. I had a guy call me yesterday in the middle of the thunderstorm, and when he called, I don't know him, but he called me, and when he called, his whole attitude was so bad that I got off the phone because the thunderstorm was coming and a hurricane. But I thought to myself, I bet he doesn't get far in life. I mean, here's a guy with the worst attitude I didn't even like him just from a 2-second, approach. And I was just thinking, geez, you can put people away that way. The truth is if you're losing them, though, that's okay if it's the right kind you're losing. And then on top of that, you'll find those are signs that you know. Now, let me just jump right into great leadership, because I'm going to give you, and we have them written for you on the screen as well, some marks of great leaders. Here are the traits. Number 1, they intentionally live their lives with a purpose. They don't get up and say, wonder what life's about or what's going to happen to me in life. They know where they're going and what they want to do. They really know what they want. They know what they're gifted at. They know their skill set. And they understand the value of that they personally bring to an organization. See, when you see a great leader, they know, here's what I bring. This is what I do. And it's not pride, it's not boastful. It's just knowing this organization needs this that I do, and this is what I'm going to do. I'll tell you one of the guys that I loved watching. While I was pulling for the Falcons this year, I got to tell you, Tom Brady just is an amazing leader on a field. When that guy goes out there again and does what he did again this year, even from being behind, I couldn't help but think, there's a guy that's a leader. He knows I bring the value. He knows this team needs me. And there should be a place in our organization where we reach the spot that we understand we bring everything they're asking. And you can go find somebody else, but you may not find somebody else that cares as much or that can deliver as much. And so great leaders, they do that. They always know where they're going. Number 2, They don't live their life waiting for the right time. See, there are a lot of people that never, you know the old saying, ready, aim, fire? You ever been around people that they're always ready, 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 but they never do anything? Or aim, 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 they've studied, got the results, but they never do anything. Then you got one kind that it's just fire, 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 did we hit anything? And so what you want to do is you want to make sure it falls in the right sequence, ready, aim, fire. But you don't waste your time waiting for right opportunities somewhere down the road. They believe that every day not doing my purpose is a wasted day. Number 3, great leaders are lifelong learners. Personal growth to them is not an option. They want to do it. They need to do it. I spoke about last month, I think it was. It was pretty cool. I'm really impressed with the Goodwill organization. I didn't know much about Goodwill. Every year we make a donation, and then we throughout the year we'll give them things. And I had the privilege of speaking at the Goodwill Industries annual conference. And that conference had all of their leaders from all over America that came. And so I decided, okay, I knew 6 months out I was speaking, so I said, okay, let me just read about Goodwill. The more I read, the more impressed I became. They're the number one company to hire handicapped people in the world. And they have thousands and thousands of handicapped people who couldn't have a job otherwise, but they bring them there, and then what they do is they take your donations, and if it's a bicycle or toys, they repair them, and so then they sell them, and that's how they make their money, and then they're able to continue to help the people, particularly the disenfranchised or the handicapped. And as I went through that, I started saying, this is insane. They're CEOs of every single state and most of the cities. The ones that they have running it were like the vice president of ExxonMobil or the former president, retired president of DuPont. And these were world-class leaders that I sat there and looked at. And the more I looked at the resumes and who I was speaking before, on the volunteer, when they left, they went and ran Goodwills. And so I'm looking at rows filled with Harvard graduates and Yale graduates all over the place. In fact, the head of the organization was a Harvard graduate that has been blind since birth, and his office is right there in Washington, D.C. Well, when I started trying to go to speak to that group, I had to read more about Goodwill, learn more about Goodwill, know all about it, and then try to challenge those people. And it grew me as much, but what was great about the entire thing was I found at the end, I'd mentioned about personal growth in the issue. When it was over, they were lined up, standing around, saying, man, that's exactly what I believe. That's what I do. Have you read? Have you heard? Have you seen? And I'm sitting around a room filled with growing leaders and thinking that's why they're where they are. They're where they are because they chose to grow. The more they took it in, the more they had a place to be able to express it. So their personal, the hunger drives them to do their best. Number 4, here's the 4th thing that great leaders do. They can see opportunities that others can't see. You ever seen somebody that can just see around the corners? They see things, everybody else is looking at it, but they see things that others don't see. And that's what you want. If you're hiring leaders or you're looking for leaders, you want to look for the people that can come and bring to you some solutions and that sometimes bring something new to the table, but they have the ability to see things others can't see. Number 5, they understand the value of energy and choose not to waste it on negative things. Now, great leaders are funny. They don't get sidetracked with trivial things. When matters that don't matter come up, great leaders just kind of ignore it. Think of your life like this. We all have a certain amount of energy in our life. It's almost like your gas tank on your car. And you can spend it any way you want. You can go out here in the parking lot, just do circles. You can let your car idle all day. Or you can go to a destination. Either way, you're burning gas. We all have a certain amount of energy. If you give out all of your energy in areas that don't matter, in negative things that you can't fix, it drains you. And then you find yourself not being able to give your best to what really needs it because you're empty. And so the big thing that I've noticed great leaders do is they guard their energy. They watch what they invest their attention and their passion and their time and their efforts in. They really watch that. They just decide this is not what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. I found this as I was growing years ago, just got on a leadership track and started growing. The biggest thing I had to learn to do was I had to learn to start saying no to a lot of things. In the early days, it's funny. I'd have people call me and want me to come speak, and they said, Bill, can I get you to come speak on whatever date? And I'd look at my calendar, it was just empty. I mean, when I first started, I'd come, anywhere, anytime. But the further you go and the more you take on and the higher you begin to grow, now you're saying no. I say no now to about 17, on average, 17 speaking engagements every month, just having no. And some of them are good ones. But I just think now, do I really want to get on a plane, fly that far, stay in that hotel, have to go through all that stuff to speak 1 hour, and may not have the result that I could have if I were here and could do it better in book form or leadership form or something like that. And I have to evaluate what's the best. You're going to find that the further you go, the more you have to say no. All your yes decisions can be made down below, but you're going to get to say the ones that really are important. And sometimes saying no is a lot, but you've got to guard yourself for your family, for your friends, for your own personal life. And so they understand the value of the energy, and energy to them matters. Number 6, great leaders continually take risk. Great leaders are interesting. They will look at a situation, and even though it's scary, here's what they do. They think the pain of regret would be greater than the pain of failure. So I'll try it and fail rather than spend my life saying, I wish I had tried it. And so they understand the risk issue is the issue of let's do it. Let's just jump out there and do it. And I really applaud people that take risk. And by the way, almost every successful person you know will tell you the story of the time that they didn't know if they could do it and they finally did it. I have a friend here, and he has a friend that is worth $3 billion. And I remember the time that Charlie and I were talking about him, and we were going through some of that. Charlie said, "Oh, Billy hadn't always been that way," because I was impressed. I mean, the guy's got 2 Gulfstream jets. Those are $55 million apiece. And a Bell helicopter, $40 million. And so me and Charlie talking, I said, man, he is on top. And Charlie said, man, I knew him when he didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And then he said, actually, I knew him when he had to call me one time, and I had to meet his payroll as a friend. He said, and I had to help him to get started. And so he still is loving to him and reaches out to him and grateful. But he'll tell you, it wasn't always easy. Every great leader has the story behind them of the times that it looked like it wasn't going to come together. But they took the risk, and they look back now and say, that's what I did, and that's where I am. And I'm glad I did it, though I was scared to death when I did. Number 7, let me give you the 7th one. Great leaders do this. They do what they need to do, even when it's not what they want to do. And that's just discipline. You just do what you need to do regardless. They say discipline is the regular diet of winners. That's just what they do. I got to do it. They understand that trophies are passed out at the finish line. They get the idea that I'm not supposed to be rewarded for effort. I get rewarded for results, and that's what happens. And so they just do what they need to do. A lot of things we don't want to do, but we need to do, and if we're going to get where we need to be, we need to do it. And then number 8, and this is fast with you, but great leaders value excellence. Excellence is that deal that it's not perfection. Now, my wife struggles sometimes. She's with me today, and she struggles sometimes with she's a perfectionist. And I don't know what happened, why she even dated me, because, that didn't match. I think God blinded her for a little bit. But we've had this discussion. I would say, Davey, there's no such thing as perfect. Jesus is the only one perfect. Now, I know what you want. What you want is you want perfect, but you can't get that. But you can get excellence. Excellence is as best as you can get. Excellence is doing the best you can, knowing that, yes, there may be some flaw or hiccup or failure, but you gave it the very best. If you had to go back, you wouldn't change any of that. You'd do it that way. And so sometimes our goal of perfection is unrealistic, but you can have a goal of excellence. We try to do this around here. From our VIP parking, we'll say, walk through it, check it out, evaluate it, give us feedback. I want to make sure this is the best. I want when people drive up, I want them to feel and experience that they couldn't have got somewhere else. When they go to the Ritz-Carlton after they've come here, I want them to say, I got better service at Cascade than I did at the Ritz-Carlton. And that's our goal. We set that standard high. And we look through everything regularly, and we know that if we don't manage it and maintain it, it'll drop. And so you have to always be looking back and evaluating. But the goal is going to be excellence. That gives you peace at night to sleep with. That gives you integrity that you can know I did the best I could with. And so the secret's going to be looking for excellence, and great leaders know how to do that. Here's another along that line. They don't give up easily. Number 9, they just don't give up easily. They never quit. All great leaders have stories of their life where they were shaped by having to weather through or persevere. You know, in fact, it'd be easier to have quit than it would be to keep going ahead. But they didn't quit. I heard the guy tell the joke one time. I thought it was hilarious. He said, you know, you've heard of Babe Ruth, and when he struck out and he did so and so, and he said, you've heard of Babe Ruth? He didn't quit. And then he went on with somebody else. You know, you've heard of Joe Montana, and went through his whole thing. He didn't quit. And one after another. Abraham Lincoln became president, but he lost 9 elections before he became president, but he didn't quit. And you've heard of, and then he said, John Timmons, and everybody was quiet. He said, you ain't never heard of him? Of course you never heard of him. He quit. And so I always remembered he's right. You're going to be remembered for not for quitting. You're going to be remembered for staying through and sticking up. And good leaders choose to say, yes, it'd be easy to quit, but I'm going to hang in here, and I'm going to do this until I know I've given it my best. And I would suggest, by the way, if you're thinking about quitting, always quit on top. Don't quit on the bottom, okay? When you're on the mountain, you can see real clear in every direction. When you're in the valley, all you can see is mountains. And when you quit at the low spot, when you quit when you're down here, that's usually one of those things you'll look back at and say, should I? So make sure your emotions are not it. Wait till you're on top. When everything's going good, that's the time you want to say, if I want to walk away, at least I walk away now, and I walk away knowing that I had all the options to stay, but I knew that it was the best time and the right thing to do. And so great leaders just don't quit. Number 10. This is the interesting about great leaders. They want and can receive feedback. Now, this is one of those things that will distinguish the difference between a good leader and a great leader. Good leaders often will do this. They know it's good, but they don't want to get feedback. And it can be brutal. I don't know if you've ever had it. I spoke at the military command thing at Fort Benning about 2 years ago. And when I was speaking at the deal, it was a 2-hour orientation, about 40 minutes of questions, and about an hour and 40 minutes or 20 minutes of teaching. And it was high-profile stuff. These are all colonels. What was interesting in that is that they wanted me to know before I walked in the door. They said, would you mind if we gave you feedback? And I said, no. And they said, good. And they said, because we've had 2 other guests over the last 2 years, and they said, no, I wouldn't want to hear it. And I thought, I didn't know I had an option. I just thought if he's got all them bars on him and he says, do you mind? My answer is supposed to be yes, you know. And so I thought, shoot, I wish he'd told me before I didn't have to have it. But after it was over with, they gave me feedback. Now, what was crazy was when I'm walking out the door is when one of the colonels comes up and gives me a stack of paper. And so when I leave, I go through the paper to read the feedback. And some of it I deserve. It wasn't bad. None of it was really negative. You know, you have this big fear it's going to be terrible, you know, but it wasn't bad at all. There were 1 or 2 little things that I thought, yeah, I could see that, and I understand that. But I understood then something that I think a lot of us need to know, whether we want to hear it or not. We need good feedback if we're going to grow. You need that. My son, Brent, is stepping into a role with me now, and we've gotten to that place where he's very teachable, and he'll say, okay, Dad, what should I do? What should I not do? And I feel like now as a coach, I'm able to say, all right, drop this, do that, squeeze that one a little bit longer. And the more you're able to do that, what I've found in him is that he's willing to say, I want it. Teach me. I mean, if we have a willingness to look at ourselves and evaluate ourselves, man, we can make some real traction. It's when we say, I don't want to see it because it feels bad. Sure, it hurts. It doesn't feel good. That's why some of us don't, the older we get, we don't walk by mirrors anymore. You know, when we're young, we walk by the mirror and flex. Now we run by the mirror because we don't want to see those things. And so we need feedback, though, if we're going to improve. All right, let me give you another. Number 11. Great leaders choose carefully the people they let in their circles. They choose real carefully who's going to be in my circle. They know that toxic people can mess you up. And you know this. There's certain people that you get in your life, you can have a great day till you see them. And then, oh, geez, everything was going well, and now. Negative people, draining people. There's some people, some people can just take the energy out of you just coming around you. You've been around people that just, oh, no, gosh, yeah. You need to leave people feeling better and not worse and make them say, I wish I had more time. But you get to choose who gets to be in your circle. And you want people who will challenge you. You want people who will energize you. You want people who will bring something to the table. You need people that when you're with them, you leave from their presence going, man, I learned something too. I got something from that. And so you want to choose who's in your inner circle very carefully. Those are the people that you want to do life with. Number 12, great leaders avoid short-term solutions over long-term success. They're not interested in just fixing it today. They want to fix it forever. They want it to last. They're not interested in putting a patch or a Band-Aid. It's not a win that we want to get. It's a difference we want to make. It's the idea of how do I do something now that sets us up. See, and you have to evaluate. I'll give you what we did here at the church years ago. For many years in leading this organization, I'll just take those of you, especially online, that are not familiar with our state. We started with a small group of people and grew to where we are and things like that in a culture that's not for it. Columbus, Georgia, by the way, in churches, has more churches per capita. It's the second largest of any city in America. Mobile, Alabama is number 1. Columbus is number 2, meaning that there are thousands of churches around us. And now that I've said that to you, you'll notice as you drive down the road, start looking. There's a church on every corner. There's a church in many stores. There's a church in every warehouse. And wherever you go, there's churches. And so to be able to kind of set and be different and distinct, we had to decide we're going after what the Bible said we know, to go after unchurched people, because that's who we're after. That's our customer, that's our client, and that's where we're going. Now, we had to change as we went through that. In the early days, we grew off of this. We would grow off what I call the excellence of the people. And as we would get some people that were good people, they were sharp, they were business people or leaders or something, and we would get them, and we would grow by giving them responsibility, and they could take the ball and run with it. But there came a day that I realized we can't go that way anymore, so we've got to radically change it. We were growing on the excellence of the people, but we were not growing with excellent systems. And so we decided we've got to now change and make systems, because if you got a great person, like if you have one key leader, I'll use it in church business, but you can think about yours. If you've got a salesman or you've got an employee. If I had a youth pastor and he was the hottest thing going, he would draw all these youth. And that was growing on the excellence of the people. But if he quit, if he left, if he went somewhere else, now the whole thing collapsed because it was grown on him. So I had to learn, how do I prevent that from happening? So we started going back, and with every area we said, we want to grow an excellent system there. So that if the leader comes in, he's got a good environment and he can grow it. But if the leader leaves, it's still in place. And therefore, it kept the whole organization healthy. And so instead of growing off the excellence of the people, which you need great people and you'll attract them, but you also need good systems. That's why some organizations can go a long time without even a leader in place, and they're still succeeding, and they haven't even filled the slot yet. And it's because they have good systems. And so that was one of the changes we had to make. Number 13 is this. A great leader would rather be a kingmaker than a king. Great leaders are not really interested in the applause. They're not interested in a position. They don't want a title. They want to develop the potential of other people. Clint said this the other day that he's right. I thought, well, Clint knows me then. He said, I've never known anybody that wants you to win as much as Bill Purvis, and he's right. I will say that. I can say that with all integrity. There's nothing in me that I got enough notoriety or whatever, recognition. I got all that stuff. I don't need that stuff. We have to go to dinner out of town, things like that. But my goal in life is to help you to be better. I promise you, all I want. The greatest thing you can do, if you're struggling and if I can help you, I want to help you. My goal in life is to be able to say, I knew you when. I mean, that's what I want. I want to be able to help you because I see the value in my own life when somebody helped me, and I've always said, what can I do? And that's going to be to give back. I spoke to a bunch of a growing mega church pastors a while back, and we were there in the group together. I said, guys, the biggest thing I tell you, and the only reason they had me was because I've been in it longer. It wasn't because I had some of them had bigger organizations, but they were new at it. And I said, the one thing I can tell you is this, make certain that now that you're there, that you take care of the people that want to get there. You take care of them. If you will do that, God gave you influence and put you in a role, not for yourself. I've always said this, the purpose of power is to empower. It's not for yourself, it's to empower others. I always hate it when I see somebody gets a little bit of power and all of a sudden it goes their head. You know, you remember Mayberry RFD and you had that Barney Fife character, you had Andy Griffith and Barney Fife. And old Barney had one bullet and a little badge, and Barney'd write a ticket to his own mother. He didn't care. Barney was power tripping all the time. The higher your self-esteem, the more that you want to help others and empower them, the lower your own personal self-esteem, the more you want to hold others back. It can become a lid or it become a lift. So you get to choose. How do I make you better? That's why I say to many of you, we have high school principals here, we have leaders of organizations. What your goal ought to be is looking at those people, not just as teachers or employees, but it ought to be looking at them as an individual and thinking, okay, what can I do to help that coach or that teacher or help that employee? What one thing could I add value to their life by doing? What would it may be a day off. It may be just a 2-minute, 5-minute conversation of what value they add. It may be giving them an opportunity, but what can you do to lift those people and make them better? And if you can do that, it's kind of like, you know, when he played sports. I had coaches that would come along, one of the best coaches I ever had. He would watch every player, and he never had any favorites. In fact, this one of this day was probably, if I go down, he's probably the best coach I ever had. But he would take every player at times and bring them along. Now, I didn't realize he would tell us the same story, but he would tell us it's a secret. So he'd call us aside. He'd say, Bill, look, Friday night we're playing so-and-so. And Bill, I got to tell you. And he would act serious. So this guy could have been an actor. He said, Bill, I got to tell you, I can't tell the team this. He said, it disheartened them, but you know, they won state championship 3 times already. Bill, I need you, buddy. I got to have you. The whole game's on you. And so I want you to do me a favor. And by the time he left, I was like, yeah, Coach, okay, sure. I'm with you, Coach. Don't tell anybody, but it's all on you. Then I found out later we was all camping out one night, a bunch of guys. All of us getting that. When I said, if the coach didn't call me aside every week and tell me, you know, how bad he needed me, and then somebody said, he calls you aside? Yeah, he calls me aside. And before you know it, we all get in the same spiel. But he knew how to make everybody feel that you had a role that we needed. And that's what a good coach, that's what a good leader does. That's what you want to walk through those hallways, or you want to stop and see them. You want to take a moment to evaluate and let them know that I'm here to help to make you a king. That's taking out the potential of them. Number 14 is this. Great leaders are known for generosity. Be generous in life, okay? You know, when you go through life and you're generous, you get it back. I was eating with a pastor one time, cheapest guy. I mean, just cheap. He could squeeze a buffalo nickel till he burps. And so we were at lunch. We get through, and he laid 15 cents out there in front of his plate. And I said, what's that? He said, that's my tip. And I said, are you kidding me? He said, no, that's my tip. I said, no, here, keep your 15 cents. And I tipped the waitress. I said, I live in this town. I know that lady. That lady right there struggles some. Your 15 cents is going to insult her. And you know what's funny? He's so cheap, it didn't bother him. He didn't care. But for me, I'm just thinking, please, if the line is here, go above it. Just do a little bit more. Be willing in the issue of generosity to be known rather as somebody that would do more and go more and help more. And so generosity is it. And then number 15, the last thing I'll tell you is this. Great leaders are known for this. They treat people respectfully. They just show respect. And it comes from the heart. It's real. It's legit. I mean, when they look at you, they value you. And I say this often to people. Everybody can teach you something. Everybody. If you look down on somebody because of their income or because of their education or because of their background, or where they live or where they've been. If you look down on somebody for that, it says more about you than them. The truth is everybody can teach you something. Everybody. Everybody's an expert in some area of life. And so what you want to do is you want to find that area, and you want to commend them and respect them for what they have and what they bring. And then on top of that, you want to take it and learn yourself. And so the issue of respect will also make you a great learner, because the more you respect, the more you'll be open to learning. I say it this way. Leadership, I think, is one of the most enjoyable experiences of all. It can be the biggest problem. If you look at the negative side, you can say, oh, man, I got problems. Look at all these people in this organization. Or you can say, you know, this is an opportunity that I'm going to jump in and take and do the best I can no matter what, and I get to help people. I get to make a positive difference. I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. I don't have a job, and I've been blessed to have one job. And so your goal in life is going to be, I want to be the best leader I can be, not so the world will know it, but so that somebody that needed it finds it. And Arlene Bum said it this way: the greatest rewards only come from the greatest commitment. So if I want to be a great leader, I've got to be greatly committed to the things that come my way. And so those are some of the thoughts about great leadership, and I think that it works.